Hi there, Brett here from OnSynergy. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the main trust administration elements that are possible from within the enVisual360 wealth management system. As you know, enVisual is a multi-modular product with everything from CRM compliance, document management, entity administration, right through to financials, accounting, process workflow and so forth. The trust administration looks at really using the main central entity management part of the system, the CRM, and the administration module, essentially. Accounting is an optional part of it. And we'll start by having a look at how the modules work for trust administration. So as enVisual360 is an entity-based system, as we've just discussed, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select a trust, which is just another entity in the system. And we'll have a look at some of the data that we're storing in there. I'm going to pick up there first. I can actually type in, looking for a trust there called Michelle Mackey. So I just type in a couple of the characters there and I choose it. You see there that I've now got Michelle Mackey Trust as a managed trust being selected. Two types of ways we can manage entities, or we can store entities in enVisual, is having them as managed or unmanaged. Unmanaged is basically saying this entity happens to be a trust, but we may not be looking after any of the statutorial information about it. If it's managed, we won't be looking at recording things like who the settlers are, the beneficiaries, all those particular key dates and things like that. That's a managed entity. So we've got a managed trust here. And I've got a couple of very easy ways of getting to data as I start with. It's quite an intuitive system to get to use. My main menu I've grabbed from the top of the screen. And here I've got something there called Trust Administration. And all these menu items here really depend upon how much of the system you have licensed. If you don't have it, we tend to switch it off to keep the system as clear and as transparent as possible. I'll choose Trust Administration for the Michelle Mackey Trust, and you can see there that it opens up straight away with some of the key details that we're storing. A lot of these fields are user definable, but this is very much how it comes out of the box. So effectively you've got the jurisdiction that's being the trust is actually incorporated within. Got some notation fields down here for some frequencies, governing laws. We've got a couple of pages we can look at here, who the key details are, who the accountants are, for example, down here. Number of screens available to us here. Details 2 gives me a little bit more details about some of the key information, some of the minute documents. These are all very much user definable screens. And we've got down here a lot of the key dates, execution dates, any year end, review dates, those sorts of things we want to keep track of, and these are all stored centrally within the system. Okay. The other information that's available to you very quickly, again just on a menu, using the basic menus here. Under my Trust Administration menu there, I've got a sub-menu which will enable me to get into things like who the officers are. Now I can actually look at things like, who my protectors are, settlers and trustees, and we just simply click the icon and we can then see who the actual trustees are down there. And adding and maintaining, providing I've got security rights, is simply just using these add edit buttons down here. And these are all transactions in the system, so it's recording the original data as well as the data that you're amending as records down here. Who all my beneficiaries are. Okay, full distribution history. So that's using the basic menu structure on there. Another easy way of navigating through our system is making use of what we call our flow paths. I'll just load up a flow path for this entity just by using my shortcuts. And a flow path is basically a graphical flowchart way of navigating through the system. So if you're actually putting an entity in the system to begin with as a brand new entity, these are steps that you generally take in putting the entity on board. So if I have an entity which is a trust, these are the sorts of buttons I would see down here, whereas I've got in my details of my beneficiaries, settlers and so forth, very, very trust orientated. If it's a managed company, I'd see a different menu. If I'm putting an individual person on the entity, on the system, I'd see a completely different flow path for the individual entity. But we're using it right now because this is an existing established trust in the actual system down here. So I can actually use it to actually inquire on data, to access data. So you can see if down here, for example, I can actually click on my beneficiaries button here. See that turn into hyperlinks? Click that, and that'll take me into the relevant screen of the product to get to that data. Everything is obviously subject to security, but I've got quite a high level of security all your settler details, trustees, protectors. Any of these particular entities in your system, you can also set up accounting for them. You can invoice to and from those entities if you so desire. You can also have a general ledger for a trust if you want. It's an optional module, but if you have accounting, when you're actually processing distributions for a trust, you can actually get it to post the distribution directly into your GL, which is quite handy. Okay. Whilst on distributions, let's have a quick look. Distributions. Go down here. I'll just make the screen a little bit bigger for us. This is a complete distribution history for the trust, and with all on visual grids, these grids are filterable on dates and any of those column values. So you can actually have this view saying, I want to look at distributions just for the last month or last financial year. And you can also look and filter on things like what the status is of the actual distribution, whether or not it's been posted or not, when it's been approved, whether it's just a simple request or not, whether there are any, you can see there's our alerts column, or any kind of compliance alerts that might kick up with regards to a distribution. You can see those in there. And editing them at this stage here, and I can use my right click if I wish to edit that distribution, and that'll take me into the details behind it. Again, there's an access link to the trust deed. Very handy if you want to get to any of those sort of source documents. You can also record the source document. So we've got a particular document that's in relation to the distribution. You can link that into here and have that linked to the transaction, which is great from an auditing perspective. Right, key details of the distribution. And if I'm not doing accounting for the particular trust, I don't have the accounting module, this is pretty much where you'd be really keen to store notes and dates, values and so forth. That becomes part of the distribution history. And if you are using accounting, you can add another dimension to it. Go in here and you can record some extra details about the accounting transaction. So because this particular trust has a ledger, I've got accounts which are relevant, I've got currencies involved here, some exchange rates, and I can actually save that, process that, and it'll directly post into the GL if you needed to. So it becomes part of the trust accounting. And as it's a standard on Visual Grid, with any of these grids, it's a matter of once you've done your filtering, you have your data as you want. It's a quick exercise to Excel. It's a right click, export to Excel, and there we have it. It exports all your data directly into a spreadsheet with value fields and so forth. So that's a very handy way to get data out if you want to do any further analysis or any further maybe external reporting. Some other details that are relevant in relation to the management of trust, which is standard to the enVisual system, is what we call our relationships part of the system. So if we want to store relationships with regards to a trust, and a relationship in a trust would be something like, for example, a beneficiary is a relationship, a settler is a relationship. Accessing the relationships for any entity is very simple. I'm going to do it through a quick shortcut here. Relationships. And there's all my relationships in relation to that single trust. And you can store relationships between any entity, and you can create all your own relationship types. The specific administration relationship types you'll find here. For example, who my beneficiaries are, who my settlers are, who my trustees are. These are all maintained by the system. So once I have, if I want to have, for example, I'll look at one of these beneficiaries, and I choose one of these entities, I can right click and I can basically switch to that entity and start looking at the details behind that entity. Look at things like all my compliance details, any jurisdictional information I need to know, get it all from here. So it's very much a drill through, flow through style of navigation. Now we can look at the relationships from a grid point of view. If I want to print that out very quickly or export it, I just literally right click and I do an export. I can push that straight out to XML, straight out to Excel if I want to, straight out to Word format if I want to. So it's a very powerful way of getting data out of our system. But I can also look at this information graphically, so using our organization chart tool. So I just choose the entity again, right click, and you'll see there's a view organization chart. I can see that they will then draw a dynamic chart for me based on the relationship information. Okay. Now just very quickly, the last element here, I'll quickly show you from my main menu. If I want to go into, if I do have accounting, it's simply a matter of just clicking that icon there, and that'll take me to all my accounting ledgers. if I'm running accounting for the trust, from here. Okay. If I'm wanting to look at all the documents that we've got attached in our document management module, I can click the documents, and I can see here all the documents that I have stored against that particular trust down here. Now these are all documents that have been stored. It can be KYC take-on documents. They might be reports we've generated, or reports that the system has generated, I should say. They could be source documents for transactions. So for example, if you've got a distribution resolution, open the document. You see the resolution in relation to the distribution. Okay, very handy for things, as you can imagine, for things like all your KYC forms for individuals, your trust individuals, your passport copies and those sort of things can all be stored within this system here. Okay, and that's a very quick overview of the trust administration element of enVisual360. Hope you enjoyed that. See you later.